first of all, you're both incredible in this. I really enjoyed it. So, Jeremy, let's talk about the timing. So it's coming out a few weeks before the election. So is the timing coincidental or intentional?
I would say it's fortuitous. I mean, the movie's been around for years and years, and it just happened to finally kind of come together last year. And, and then the release was essentially delayed because nobody in Hollywood would touch this movie. They were all afraid of litigation and repercussions and threats from Trump. And eventually we were able to get a distributor. And so the movie's coming out. It's not entirely unintentional that it's coming out in the middle of this historic election, because I think it's an essential story to be told about Donald Trump, how he became who he is now, how we got to where we got today. And that has a lot to do with his relationship with Roy Cohn, who was someone who espoused the virtues of hatred, dissembling, lies, and winning as the only moral measure.
Sebastian, your transformation into Donald Trump is pretty remarkable. Just how was that for you? And how long were you in the makeup chair? How long did that take?
I think it was about an hour and a half to 2 hours every morning or so. And we were shooting very scattered, in a scattered way, jumping between time periods. And so there was a lot of hair and makeup switches. Look, it was always a very anxious process. I mean, we didn't come at it very easily. We had people that had been involved that we lost because the movie would start and stop. And then it was really kind of this deliberate process of trying to find the right amount of not too much, not too little, just in between. And again, you do this and you never know if it's always going to translate, if it's going to get there in the way that you hope. But you stay committed and you hopefully get to the end.
Jeremy, just how much did you know about Roy Cohn before you researched and before you went into this?
As much as, not much, a sort of just cursory glance. I'd seen a documentary about him, Where's My Roy Cohn, which is something that Trump said a couple of years ago. Yeah, I had seen Angels in America, which is sort of what I knew about Roy Cohn. He was played by Ron Liebman on Broadway. He was played by Al Pacino in the Mike Nichols film, as this sort of monstrous, bellicose, hateful, venomous guy. But I, did a deep dive, as you have to do, and, learned so much more about him. He's a sort of fascinating, deeply troubling, monstrous, pitiable guy.
For people, actually, I was going to say, for people who don't know of him.
Roy Cohn was a lawyer, a brilliant lawyer. He was Joe McCarthy's chief counsel during the McCarthy hearings when he was in his early 20s. He sent Julius and Ethel Rosenberg to their deaths when he was in his early 20s. And then he became a very prominent, powerful, notorious New York lawyer, power broker, fixer, and represented basically the hoi polloi of New York society, both Democrat and Republican. He was very popular. He was infamous, and one of his clients was Donald Trump.
Sebastian, there's some controversial scenes in this movie. Was there anything you felt uncomfortable about approaching?
I think I dealt with uncomfortable in 2019 when I first read the script and sort of left it at the door there. You have to leave judgment aside and go in there as open as possible and objective as possible to what the job calls for.
I read that your family and friends advised you not to do this.
Yeah, I mean, people have very strong opinions about this man and this situation, and there were people that obviously felt that half the country would be alienated, or there'd be safety issues or whatever. But again, in America, to think that we would ever get to a state of fear where we're not able to have a conversation in some capacity that inspires understanding, where we may learn, as we have the entitlement to learn from our authority figures, right? From the people that we elect to lead us, then I think that's tragic. I think that would be a catastrophe.
I mean, we've made films about Nixon. We've made films about George W. Bush. We've made films about, every imaginable historical figure. Why should we not be able to make a film about Donald Trump? It's really interesting.
To ask both of you there. So, Sebastian, I'll start with you. How did you both manage to portray these men without it seeming like an impersonation? What's the key to that?
Well, I think you kind of have to cross out the names and go look at it sort of with a fresh pair of eyes and try to understand. You're an investigator. You're a detective. You're going in there. There's a case before you. You're looking at all of the evidence, everything you can collect. Fortunately, there's a lot of information out there, documents, books written. You try to get it all under your in the time that you have, and then you make some decisions.
How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's sort of just, that's the work. The German playwright Bertolt Brecht said that actors were scientists of human behavior. So that's what you do, and I guess certain people paint a portrait and it looks a certain way, and Rembrandt paints a portrait and it looks like a human being and you can see into their soul. So I guess, you want to try and create something as alive and dimensional as possible. I don't really know how you do it, but that's certainly what we're both attempting to do.
Do we know if Trump or any of his team have seen the movie?
Roger Stone just tweeted about it. He said he was better looking than the guy who plays him. But I don't know. I don't know if they've seen it. I hope they do.